Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Prabhupada,
Jaya Prabhupada,
जय श्रीला भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज की जय। देसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की निताय गौर प्रेमानंद। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुशान्ति। It is so nice to see so many devotees gathered today. It's a Thursday evening, but it is so nice that the congregation has realized the importance of such festivals. Usually you will see a crowd when it's Janmashtami actually laid the seat for A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada to come to harvest and to give us the tree. But if we study Gaudiya Vaishnava history, it is Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who actually grew the tree which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had laid a seed for. And what A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada did was to grow the tree further and to reap the fruits from the tree. Many acharyas who came before tried to lay the seed, many tried to grow the tree, many tried to harvest the fruits from it. But it is these three Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas who actually followed through on planting the seed, growing the tree, and eventually harvesting the fruit. And what fruit are we talking about? The fruit is actually what Mahaprabhu declared. That there will come a point in time where everyone in every corner, every town, every village, there would be devotees, there would be persons who would be chanting the names of Krishna. And this came to pass because of the seeds laid by this Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas. So it is very important that we dig deep in days like this to introspect into our own devotional service, whether it is still in line with what these acharyas have set out for us. Are we still conducting our devotional service in such a way, or has it now become dilute because these acharyas have now left us? BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a transcendently peculiar personality. He is known, as many of us know, as the Simha Guru, as the Lion Guru. It's not because he had a mane and he had long hair. It's because he was a very intense personality. We would be very lucky if we were not fired or blasted by him. His disciples would actually say that we would be very lucky in any day that he did not actually scold us. And there were many living entities who did not take to Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur during those days. They felt that he was too intense, he was too critical, and he was a wet blanket. It's because they were devotional service that was gratifying their senses. But when BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared, he felt that Mahaprabhu's devotional service should not be performed to gratify people's senses. And that is why when you read many of his letters and when you read many of his conversations, he would very much focus on how Bhagavatam classes are given, how Kirtan is done. If people were doing kirtan in different tunes and they were trying to attract the crowd, he would stop the entire kirtan. And when he did all this, people felt that he wasn't flowing with them. He wasn't flowing with the crowd. But he was one person who never flowed with the crowd. Because he knew the crowd was going into the ditch. And when A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada appeared, he never compromised the teachings of his spiritual master. But will that this personality who would travel to the Western world would have a milder nature. I think that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami milder, and that is why this worldwide movement of Krishna consciousness was successful. Yes, you are right. But if Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was not hard, was not intense during those periods, then what we would have now is simply a semblance of what Vaishnavism actually is or what Vaishnavism actually was. So his intensity was very much needed in that day and age. And why is this festival very relevant for us? Because as we all know, without Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we would not have our Prabhupada. And it is very nice that we should first look at what context of why we glorify this Acharya. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada at once, he was known as Abhay and Abhay Charan was a follower of Gandhi. As Indians in those days, at that period of time, they all wanted to follow Gandhi. And Abhay Charan was a devotee and he knew what Gaudiya Vaishnavism was. But he was a little cynical. He was skeptical that is there really a bona fide this day and age to propagate Gaudiya Vaishnavism? And in his heart, he felt that there was no such Acharya. So there was once his friend, Narendranath Mulik, would come to him and say that, you're always very cynical, very skeptical about sadhus. But this time, I found a sadhu. He seems very genuine. Why don't you come with me? And Abhay said, this is what everyone has been telling me for so many years. But because you're my good friend, let me come with you. So he went to try and test whether this sadhu was actually genuine. So they went to a building, they went to a house, and they went in, and they saw this very effulgent personality. He was very tall, he was sitting erect. It is very difficult to sit erect. I see some of you already straightening yourself. Right? I'm not saying it because of you. For me, I'm not very old, so I think. But it is very difficult for me to sit erect. BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was known to sit very straight. And Prabhupada gives the reason for this. Why? Because he was Naishtika Brahmachari all his life. He had never ever participated in union with the opposite sex. So he had never lost any form of energy from his body apart from giving it to Krishna. And because he had that ojas, he could actually sit erect. So they saw he was effulgent, he was sitting very straight, he had that Gandhi-like, small round glasses, and he was speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam. But he was speaking from Bhagavad Gita. And when they entered, naturally they bowed down. And as they were rising, before they could rise, BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur immediately said that you two boys, right, you're well spoken, you're well read, you can speak English, go and spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Abhay Charan felt, what is this? Right? He didn't say hello, he didn't invite us, and immediately he's telling us what to do. So he felt a bit challenged. But he sat down to hear. And he asked Saraswati Thakur a question. He asked that you're speaking so much and you're telling us to preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But how can we do this when we are in bondage? We are not independent. We are dependent on the British. So he felt that, fine, I've cornered him. But Saraswati Thakur gave such an answer that no personality would ever give such an answer. Naturally, any Indian would have said that you are absolutely right. Right? British, and then we will speak about Krishna consciousness. But Saraswati Thakur said, what independence are you talking about? What is independence? You mean that if you are independent of the British, you will really become independent? What about the greed? What about the envy? What about the lust that is gripping us? After becoming independent of the British, will you truly become independent? And what bondage are you talking about? Birth, death, old age, and disease. These four things are binding you to this material world. So even if you are unbound by the British, you will still die, you will still become old, and you will still become British. So what bondage and what independence are you talking about? Prabhupada's or Abhay Sharan's mind was blown. And immediately he quietened, he sat down, and he intensely heard from his spiritual master. And it is written in Prabhupada Nectar, or Prabhupada's biography, Prabhupada Lilamrita, right? Prabhupada Lilamrita, that at that point in time, Abhay Sharan immediately accepted Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his spiritual master. Not formally, but in his heart, he actually accepted him as his guru and he wanted to surrender to him. So, this is what laid the foundation for all the temples in the world. The center here, the devotees here, our Kantimala, our Tilak, this mic stand, this garland, everything was laid on that day. Just imagine if Abhay Sharan had decided not to attend that program. Of course, Srila Prabhupada is eternally liberated. He would definitely have delivered the conditioned souls. But who laid that foundation? It was Saraswati Thakur. So Narendranath Mullik asked Abhay Sharan, so what do you think? And then he looked at him and he said that Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is in the hands of a very expert person. It is finally in the hands of a very expert person. So the foundations were laid. But to appreciate who Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually was and his glories, we need to look at the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Gaudiya Vaishnavism, as we all know, was laid by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago. He came and he propagated the chanting of the holy names. And he said that we need to study Srimad Bhagavatam and we need to worship Krishna in the mood of the gopis. So he set the mood. And after him, he taught this to his disciples, the Sat Goswamis. And the Sat Goswamis were prolific in the way they preached this message. They would actually write on leaves the instructions of Mahaprabhu and they would write books in that way. And after them came devotees like Shyamananda Pandit, Srinivas Acharya, Krishnadas Kaviraj. So all these devotees came to further propagate. But after that, there was a gap. Like all major religions or all major spiritual organizations, there will always come a point in time where that organization or religion will face a period of darkness. This is what Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita as Yoga Nashta Parantapa. Nashta means scattered. The teachings will eventually become scattered. And this happened to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So after Shyamananda Pandit, Krishnadas Kaviraj, Goswami, they all left. There was a very big gap. And after that gap, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhushan came. And they decided, especially Baladev Vidyabhushan, he decided that the philosophy now after Mahaprabhu and Goswamis, it is a bit airy-fairy. It is nashta. So what I need to do now is I need to write a commentary on Vedanta to cement our place. And when he did that, everyone thought that this is the golden years of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. But after Baladev Vidyabhushan left, there were centuries of gap. No one took to Gaudiya Vaishnavism seriously. And at that point in time appeared Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared, he decided that now I will have to consolidate Mahaprabhu's message and the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So what he did was he started to assess the situation of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. This is a very important point. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur could have decided that nobody is here. Right? If no one is here, if let's say the MC or the leaders are not here, anyone could come and take this mic and start to speak. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur could have thought that nobody is here, whatever I say they will believe. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very sincere to the purpose of Mahaprabhu. So he started to assess the situation. And when he started to assess the situation, he became even more depressed than he already was. He was depressed that there was no genuine Vaishnava. But when he started to assess, he became even more depressed because he saw that Gaudiya Vaishnavism was now being carried out and propagated by the Jati Goswamis. And it was being propagated by the Prakrita Sahajyas. Simply put, these were persons who wanted to propagate Mahaprabhu's message so that they would become popular, so that they would gratify their own senses, so that they could get a meal, so that they could get association of women, so that they could get association of name, fame and glory. Bhaktivinoda Thakur decided that if I were to propagate this, I should not fall prey to these things. This is a very important point, not only for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. For any spiritualist, we have to follow the path set out by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Because if we chant, if we come to the center, if we read Bhagavatam, if we take classes, if we read Kirtan, thinking that I will now become popular, that now I will get more likes on YouTube, that I will get more followers on Facebook, then we have lost the plot. That is why these days are very important. Because now we think that these YouTube videos and this Facebook, this Instagram is how this movement should be brought forward. But if we lose sight of how BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had propagated Vaishnavism, then our propagation will eventually also become very dilute. So he became very morose. And what did he do? He started to pray to Jagannath. At that time he was in Jagannath Puri. So he started to pray that please, I want to propagate your glories. I want to propagate the glories of Mahaprabhu. And on one of the days, Jagannath actually appeared to his dreams. Jagannath appeared. And he said, my dear Kedarnath Dutt, right? Of course, he did not call himself Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He told him that you are a district magistrate. But know one thing, that I did not drag you to Puri to deal with legal matters. You are becoming too engrossed in legal matters. I did not drag you here for you to continue being a district magistrate. You now have to propagate my glories. If it were us, what would we do? We would say that, Jagannath, I will definitely do it. No matter what you say, I will do it. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur challenged Jagannath. He said that, okay, you're telling me, but I do not have the strength to do it. You please give me the strength along with your instruction. And along with giving me strength, you please send to me a personal staff from Vaikuntha. Jai Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharaj ki. He said that you please send me one of your own men, your own staff from Vaikuntha to help me to propagate this message. And Jagannath did not say yes. Jagannath said, you pray to Bimala Devi. You pray to her, and if she wills, something will happen. So what did he do? he started to worship Bimala Devi. And who is Bimala Devi? She is Mother Parvati. Right? In the form where she was so desirous to honor the Mahaprasad of Jagannath. And Jagannath was so merciful that he said that any prasadam that comes from me must be first given to Bimala Devi. So as he worshipped Bimala Devi, one day Bhagavati Devi, his wife, got pregnant. And on a very auspicious day, 1876, 6th February, 3:30 p.m., the most divine personality, Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, appeared in this world to answer the prayers of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Jai Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki. The class has not ended. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very happy. And when he was born, it is mentioned that the umbilical cord, usually, especially in Singapore, when babies are born, when the doctors are very lazy to do the natural birth, they would say that mostly, not everyone, they would say that the umbilical cord is stuck around the neck of the baby. So the parents will panic. They'll say, no, do cesarean. Right? Then the doctor will be very happy. Today I don't have to go, the midwife can take care of it. Right? So that happens. But BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had umbilical cord, not around his neck. It was around his body like a Brahmin thread. It was around his body like a Brahmin thread. And at that point, when personalities saw that he had been born in this way, they predicted that this person would actually be a great personality. And like that, days went by, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur conducted his Annaprashan ceremony. And on his Annaprashan ceremony, when they were about to conduct, that was the time of Jagannath Rath Yatra. That was the time of Jagannath Rath Yatra. And because they were in Puri, their house was just in the way where Jagannath's Rath would actually cross, on Grand Road. So as the Rath was crossing, and you all know, I've never really gone to Puri, but those who have gone would have seen or heard of this wonderful pastime of Jagannath, that Jagannath would sometimes stop the Rath. And he would teach everyone that it is not because you are pulling or pushing that the Rath is moving. It is because of my mercy that it's moving. So on that day, he decided to teach the devotees there that same lesson. So what would have taken a few hours for Rath Yatra to complete, he stopped for 3 days. 3 days. Just outside the house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so happy, he organized Sankirtan for the pleasure of the Lord. And because he was district magistrate, naturally, his wife would be allowed to approach Jagannath. And in that way, Bhagavati Devi took Bimala Prasad. He was named Bimala Prasad. Why? He came from the mercy of Bimala Devi. Right? What a wonderful name. So she took him on top of the Rath and she put him in front of Jagannath. And immediately what happened? What did Bimala Prasad do? He grabbed the lotus feet of Jagannath. And the moment he grabbed her lotus feet, the garland around Jagannath's neck fell on his body. And everyone who was there saw this most wonderful sight. And they again predicted that this person, an astrologer was also there because the Annaprashan ceremony was going to begin. And he predicted that this person will not only teach devotees within Bengal, he would not teach devotees or propagate the message of spirituality within India. He would actually propagate the message of Mahaprabhu around the world. He predicted it at that time when he saw this. So during the Annaprashan ceremony, usually what parents would do, they would put the child, they would feed the child, and they would put some paraphernalia in front, right, to get a sense of the vocational instinctive of the child. What would he become? So what did they put? They put some puff rice, they put Srimad Bhagavatam, they put some gold coins, they put some gold, right? They put it there and they let Bimal Prasad just crawl on the floor. And they were waiting in anticipation to see what he would grab. In ISKCON, we do this. The moment the child grabs the gold coin, the parents fall off their chair. So many years I'm chanting, finish. What is going to happen? Don't worry, it's okay. Right? We can still continue to preach, we can still purify the child's consciousness, and Krishna decides. But BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not grab the gold coins. He did not grab the half rice. What did he grab? Srimad Bhagavatam. He grabbed Srimad Bhagavatam. And again, a lot of devotees took a lot of liberty to prophesize. Right? You see, almost 4 or 5 devotees have already prophesied that he would be a divine personality. So like this, he continued his childhood pastimes. And after Annaprashan ceremony, a few months passed. And he was about 4, 5 months years old. And there was once where in India again, those who come from there would know that India is popular or famous for mangoes. When there is mango season, everyone wants mangoes. In Singapore, you can get mangoes every day. And every day they will tell you it's Indian mango. So I leave it to you whether it's true or not. But Indian mango means that it has to come in a certain season, and when you taste it, it's very nice. So Bhima Prasad, as a normal child, wanted to taste mango. So when the season came, the mangoes were in the house, he took the mangoes and he started to partake the mango. And when he was partaking, what would we do to our children when they are partaking of mangoes? Eat more. Don't eat 1. Eat 2. Eat 3. I'll buy you more. But what did Bhaktivinoda Thakur do? Bhaktivinoda Thakur chastised Bhima Prasad. What did he say? He said that these mangoes have not been offered to Krishna. And it is mentioned in some letters of Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples that he mildly chastised him. Did not really heavily chastise him. Mildly saying that you should not have done that. Right? We are not enjoyers, we are servants of Krishna. So you should only take what is offered. Just imagine, he was just a few years old, hardly 4 or 5 years old. And at that point in time, as a 5-year-old boy, he took a vow that from this day onward, I will not touch or eat another mango. And until his departure from this material world of his manifest pastimes, he never touched mango. And whenever his disciples felt that we have mango, it's mango season, we have to serve it to our spiritual master, they would bring it in front of him. And what would he say? He would say that I am an offender. I enjoyed on my own without giving this mango to Jagannath. I am an offender. At that point in time when he was saying this, he was an Acharya of the Gaudiya Math. So meaning to say, 64 months had already opened up. And in the whole Bengal, he was a very famous personality. But he very nonchalantly admitted the mistakes that he had performed in the past. This is the meaning of Acharya. As we progress in devotional service, when we get designations, we're given a mic, we're given a harmonium, we're given a laptop, we're given some post, we immediately forget where we came from. Immediately we'll forget. And we will think that this is the starting point of my devotional service. The starting point is I know many verses, I've read many books, I'm speaking, and devotees are hearing. This is my starting point. But this is not the starting point. At the starting point, we fell many times. We made so many mistakes. Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur recognized this fact. And he quoted a verse, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yad Kincha Jagatam Jagat Tene Tektena Bhujita Ma Grida Kasya Sridhanam. He quoted the verse saying that I am an offender because my quota was set for me, but I grabbed what was Krishna's. This is a very important point, because as we continue to preach and as we continue to see living entities or devotees making mistakes or faltering during their process, we should never feel that this mistake will disqualify them from coming to Jagannath. BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made a mistake. His father chastised him, but his father never told him that now you are disqualified from performing devotional service. If Bhaktivinoda Thakur had said that, I won't be sitting here, you won't be sitting here, nobody would be here. Because he mildly told him what needs to be done. And because Saraswati Thakur never forgot what he had done before, and he always remained humble, that is why he was known as Acharya. And like this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur encouraged Bimal Prasad in many forms of devotional service. There was once they built a house, it was known as Bhakti Bhavan. And when Bhakti Bhavan was coming up, when they were digging to lay the foundations for that house, they unearthed a Kurma Shaligram Shila. Kurma Dev Shaligram Shila. And when they unearthed it, they did not know what to do with it. So everyone said that Shaligram Shila means only Brahmin must worship. Right? No one else should worship. So we must give it away. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur sensed that Bimal Prasad wanted to worship Kurmadev. And what did Bhaktivinoda Thakur do? He did not hear anyone. He did not give it to a Brahmin. He took the Shaligram Shila and he gave it to Bimal Prasad. And he said, I will teach you the mantras, I will teach you the ways of worshipping, you will now worship the Shaligram Shila. We may think that Bhaktivinoda Thakur compromised on devotional standards, but no, he did not. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in a position that he remembered what he prayed to Jagannath. Please send me a person from Vaikuntha, your own men, to actually come. And when Jagannath said this opportunity to him, Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not just want to terminate it. So what did he do? He encouraged Bimal Prasad. And it is mentioned that from that day onwards, Bimal Prasad would actually mark his whole body, that 12 parts of his body with tilak. He started to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And from that day onwards, he started to follow the Vaishnava Dharma. Just imagine. What would have happened if Bhaktivinoda Thakur said no? Right? You're a small boy, you don't know the standards, right? You're too weak. What would have happened? This is a great lesson for devotees. He was an Acharya. He could have said, like Ramanujacharya, how he set standards in Tirupati temple, in so many temples. Bhaktivinoda Thakur could have also done it. But he decided that encouragement of the next generation is more important than simply niyama grahaha, following rituals and rules for the sake of following it. So even though he followed the standards, he encouraged his son. So like this, Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took on to Vaishnava Dharma, but he also attended school. And just like our children, we send them to school. So he went to school, and Saraswati Thakur, as Bimal Prasad, was an extraordinary student. He was an extraordinary student because he never read his textbooks. Students, please don't take this example. He never read his textbooks, but he always aced his exams. He always aced his exams. But he was not very interested in reading his textbooks. It was just very natural for him to ace his exams. Why? Because as lessons was going on, what would he do? He would read Pratana from Narottam Das Thakur. He would read so many books from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Right? Again, please don't follow this. Please do your work, please study. But Saraswati Thakur was such a personality. He only came for Krishna consciousness. So like that, every moment he got, he spent it with Krishna. And by the time he was 7 years old, he had already memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. We are starting our kids with chapter 15 chapter, right? Matsi is smiling. BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita by the age of 7. And he memorized so many verses from Srimad Bhagavatam to the point that because he was taking notes and he was taking too long, he actually invented a shorthand form of writing called Vicanto. Just imagine, he's a student and he invented a language altogether, Vicanto. And at that point in time, it was actually famous. But eventually, because people were not following it, then it died off. But he actually created a language on its own. And at that point in time, to further encourage him, Bhaktivinoda Thakur took him to all the classes that he was taking in different parts of Bengal. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wanted to establish a press to print books. At that point in time, when you type something, you cannot hit delete. Now when we make a mistake, what do? Delete. Control A, delete. Then we retype the whole thing. We save as a different document. At that time, if you make a mistake, the whole paper will be crushed, thrown away. You have to do it all over again. So he was exposed to print media at that point in time. And we wonder, where did A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada get that impetus to print? It is because of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It is because of Saraswati Thakur. They were very much focused on the literary pursuit of propagating the message of Mahaprabhu through books. So as he was doing this, on the site, BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also started writing books on astrology and astronomy. He was so expert that professors at that time who were teaching astrology would come to him to ask for tips or to ask for corrections, even though he was very young. And he took it upon himself to translate Surya Siddhanta, astronomy as it is known from the solar system, the sun system. And as he was writing it, the professors became very impressed with his knowledge of Surya Siddhanta. And when they saw his prolific nature to write and grasp such concepts, they gave him the title Siddhanta Saraswati. So we may have wondered that some great devotee would have given him this title, but it was actually his professors who gave him this title. And when he was doing this service, he also met Jagannath Das Babaji. Jagannath Das Babaji was the Siksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And at that point, when he saw Vimal Prasad, he was very taken in by his nature. He was always very serious. Very serious. I think probably you asked that question, right? Why some devotees look very serious? BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very serious. Then hardly smiled. Very serious. Everyone was very afraid of him. So that is, as Devakinanda Prabhu said, it's the different nature of devotees. There's no wrong or no right. So like this, he became very dear to Jagannath Das Babaji. And Babaji Maharaj told him that now because you are so good at astrology and astronomy, I give you a service. You please come up with the Vaishnava calendar. Now we have the GCal in our phones. We always refer to Vaishnava calendar. The one who laid the seed and the foundation for it was BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So like that, he entered from primary school to secondary school, he entered college. And he entered a Sanskrit college. He was a master in Sanskrit. And when the professors again saw that he was very expert, they told him that now you must dedicate your life to studying Sanskrit grammar. You must dedicate your life because you will be the one to propagate Sanskrit grammar in Bengal. But Saraswati Thakur said that my life will be wasted if I take on Sanskrit grammar. My life is simply to be dedicated to the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is meant to be dedicated to the loving service of Krishna. So, if our professors were to tell us that we are good, we should take up some service, we should become faculty member, what would we do? We would become more involved. But what did he do? He dropped out of school. Just imagine, someone is encouraging him, someone is telling him that now you should become a faculty member. And he said that I will now drop out of school. And when he dropped out of school, it wasn't a very popular decision. If your children would now come and tell you, I heard a class today, I'm dropping out of school tomorrow. Please don't do for me. Right? It is not popular. But we all know why he came. To propagate the message of Mahaprabhu. So he dropped out, but he gave a logic and people asked him. He said, if I were to do well in my studies, what he's saying is still applicable now. He said, if I do very well in my studies, the first thing my parents will tell me is that, you've done well, it is now time to get married. So he said, I'm not getting married. Why? Because the energy in my body must only be used to propagate Krishna consciousness. And if I get married, I will have to lose my energy for so many other things. It is for me to get married. I have to make so many disclaimers because we cannot imitate him. Right? He was a very special personality. So he said, I would never get married. I would become a eligible bachelor. And further down, in some years to come, when someone asked him, why are you always against marriage? You didn't get married, you're Naishtika Brahmachari. Why? He said, I'm not against marriage. If I could produce Krishna conscious children, I would get married many times. I would produce so many children. But he also warned the devotees that a sadhu generally does not encourage devotees to get married. Why? Because he said, marriage means service. Husband serves the wife, wife serves the husband. But he said in Kali Yuga, because the husband exploits the wife and the wife exploits the husband, the sadhu would never encourage anyone to get married. This is the reason he gave. He sanctified the ashram of marriage by not getting married, but he always held a very high regard for it. And when he decided that he did not get married, but he still needed to be employed. So he got some employment in the city known as Tripura, under a king, the king of Tripura. So what did he do? He was tutoring his son, the prince, and he was also writing the history of the Tripura kings. And at that point in time, BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a nature where he would always speak the truth. Anyone who was hypocritical, anyone who lied, he would cut them. So he also found out there was some bribery going on in the government, in the king's government. So he started to whistleblow. And again he did not become popular. But the king liked him very much. But just as how when his professor praised him, he dropped out of school. When the king started to praise him, he decided, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm going to dedicate my life to Krishna. And the king told him, I'm so pleased with you that I will give you full pension. Till the day you die, what salary you are receiving now, you will continue to receive it. Hardly we can get such practices nowadays. Right? But Saraswati Thakur taught us that just because we are spiritualists, it is not that we should neglect work. He was very honest. He wanted an honest job. He wanted a modest salary. Because he knew that if he got much more salary, he would have to dedicate his time more to work. So he was very, very focused. So he left his job, he went to Mayapur. And just as he went to Mayapur, it was Chaturmasya. In ISKCON, we don't not say celebrate, we don't observe Chaturmasya as much. But if you go to Gaudiya Math, they observe Chaturmasya very seriously. Why? Because Saraswati Thakur laid the foundations for it. So what would he do? He lived in a very simple hut and he would take rice without salt. without sabji, without any variety, only rice he would cook with his own hands in an earthen pot. He would sleep on the floor. And every day he would eat once. And you know how he would eat? He would take the rice from the earthen pot, he would put it on the floor. And his hands would go behind. And he would kneel down, and with his mouth he would try to pick up the rice. And whatever rice entered his mouth, that was prasadam for the day. That was prasadam for the day. So that is how he observed Chaturmasya. And usually when we perform austerities like this, we would generally feel that now I'm very austere. I'm very renounced. But when Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw this, he chastised BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said, what is the point of such austerities? Your body must be kept fit, simple, but fit to preach Krishna consciousness. If it were me, I would have challenged Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I would say, I'm so renounced. Right? What are you telling me? But what did he do? He did not follow austerities for name, fame, and glory. Immediately he said that, now my dear father, I will stop the austerity. See how he dropped it. He wasn't attached. Sometimes when we get a service, we become so attached to it. When someone tells us to let it go, we don't want to let it go. Why? Because we are getting some gratification from the service. But over here, he immediately let it go. And at that time, as he was performing these austerities, he also started to chant more and more the holy names of Krishna. And there was a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur who came to Mayapur at that time to start a worldwide mission for preaching. And he looked for BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But at that point in time when he saw him, he was like a madman. Beard, long hair, and he was chanting Krishna's name profusely. And he felt that this person is disqualified. And he will not be able to propagate the message of Mahaprabhu. Just imagine how easily he was judged. Many devotees are seated here. They may not have a good education. They may not have the whitest kurta. They may not be able to hold the mic. They may not be able to speak eloquently. They may not be able to lead kirtan so nicely. How we have framed devotional service is sweet kirtan, eloquent verses, nice kurta, nice glasses, right? Nice car, nice house, everything is balanced. This is devotional service. No, that is not devotional service. That is simply balance. That is not devotional service. Devotional service means one who is sold out to Krishna. That is BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This is why Gaudiya Vaishnava history is so important for us. Because when philosophy becomes dilute, we think that this is the standard. So I will just follow it. But this forces us to dig deeper. We are running out of time. So I will conclude with one last pastime. His initiation. BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the Siksha disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Whole life, Bhaktivinoda Thakur taught him everything from chanting mantras to Krishna consciousness to Bhagavatam. But there was a point in time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur felt that I have reached my maximum capacity to inspire my son. So he told BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Vimal Prasad, that now you need to move on. You should take initiation from a great personality known as Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He told him that. If Vimal Prasad was my son, I would have told him that you just stay with me. I'm good enough. Right? Sometimes when we have programs, we feel that these are our people. They should not go and take instruction from anyone else. You come here, you just hear me. Right? This is that program. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur never exercised ownership over anyone. He told him, you go. So he approached Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And when he approached Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions this. He took it for granted that he would be given initiation. He went in and he said that, I want to take shelter of you. What did Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj say? No. Right? You're not taking initiation for me. And he became completely broken. And he writes in his own words, and I will read this. He says, when out of false ego I was thinking, I am a great scholar of mathematics and philosophy. Let any big pandit come at any time, day or night, and I will cut his propositions to pieces. At that time, I got the darshan of the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev. He ignored everything that was previously appreciated in me. It's a very important one. My truthfulness, my morality, my pious life, my intellectualism, knowing them to be of little value. When I saw that he ignored whatever was good in me, I realized how good he himself must be. Who would neglect so many good qualities in me? What inconceivable wealth he possessed. What a wonderful statement. Many times we may also think that we have many good qualities. And when we ask for a service, when we come to the center, we must get a certain level of respect. We must get that service. This is the level of engagement I must have. We build a castle in the air. And BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur admits, I also built a castle in the air. But the moment I came in front of Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, I was intellectual, he was illiterate. And when he said no, he broke everything. And he says, I was reborn. This is the meaning of initiation. Initiation doesn't mean what are the four regulative principles, how many rounds you will chant. That's important. But initiation means starting point. And when starting point has to come, there has to be a rebirth. And rebirth means the false ego has to be destroyed. And when it was destroyed like that, apparently for him, he decided to preach more vigorously this Krishna consciousness. And like this, he got initiated. Eventually, he took sannyas. Eventually, he opened the Gaudiya Math. He sent disciples all over the world. He started a printing press. He started to print books. He started to do deity worship in the temples. And he started to do so many things that he crafted the blueprint that A.C. BhaktiVedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada would use to further propagate Krishna consciousness. So we have seen just very few pastimes of Saraswati Thakur, but one thing that we must note, that when we think of Saraswati Thakur, if we get to read his pastimes, we must dig deeper into our own devotional service. Are we in a cruise mode? Are we doing our devotional service for designations? Are we performing our devotional service for name, fame and glory? When we read his pastimes, it allows us to dig deeper. And when we dig deeper, when we start watering the seed, when we chant our rounds nicely, when we read Bhagavatam nicely, when we try to hear, then you will see the flower and the plant and the fruit that grows from this service that we do. It becomes not only sweet for us, it becomes sweet even for other living entities. He was very heavy, and I will conclude with this. He was very heavy, but he was also a very sweet person. Very sweet person. When he saw that someone was being criticized in the mud, there was a person who always fought with other brahmacharis. Always he would fight. And one day he died. And after he died, the brahmacharis had an Ishta Goshti. And in the Ishta Goshti, they started to discuss how each of them fought with their dead brahmachari. That was the Ishta Goshti. The Ishta Goshti means discussing Krishna. But here the Ishta Goshti was criticizing the person who was dead. And BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in the room and he was hearing. And when they concluded the Ishta Goshti, he came out. He said, yes, he was an angry man, but his dhoti was always very white. And he always kept clean. And I always saw this of him. And he taught his disciples that no matter how much great we become, no matter how much rules and regulations we may know, the heart must still be kept soft so that we appreciate the sweetness in other devotees. And that can only come if we perform the devotional service for the right, like what Saraswati Thakur did. Jai Srila BhaktiSiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.